Hey, if you're learning to code, listen up. I want to share the one piece of advice I really wish someone had given me when I was starting out, and it's got nothing to do with what language to learn or which framework is the hottest right now. Nope. It's about changing the one thing that actually matters, your mindset. And to do that, we have to talk about a problem you might not even know you have.
Yeah, what if I told you exactly that? That all those hours you're spending watching tutorials, all the notes you're taking, what if that's the very thing holding you back? I know, it sounds crazy, but you gotta stick with me here, because getting this is the absolute key to unlocking your potential.
So the first big obstacle that almost every single new developer hits is a place I like to call tutorial hell. And trust me, I know it well. I pretty much lived there for a year. The most dangerous thing about it is that it feels like you're being productive, but it's a trap, a complete illusion that keeps you from ever really starting.
Does this look familiar? Because this was my exact daily routine. I was a content-consuming machine. I'd watch videos during lunch, read 5 articles before bed. My notebooks were just full of code snippets and concepts. On the surface, it looked like I was the perfect student. But even with all that effort, there was this little voice in the back of my head, this nagging feeling that I wasn't actually getting better. You know the feeling, right? You can follow along with a video perfectly, line by line. But the second it's over and you're staring at a blank file, poof, it's all gone. The knowledge feels like you rented it, you don't own it. And this chart right here, this is the problem in a nutshell. Look at that bar for hours watching tutorials. It's through the roof. And now look at projects built. It's barely even there. My chart would have looked exactly like this. All input, zero output. A huge, scary imbalance. And that was it. That was the simple, brutal truth. I was consuming, not creating. I was a professional student, a professional tutorial watcher, but I wasn't a coder. And watching someone else climb a mountain is a whole different world from climbing it yourself.
So what changed? Well, I realized my whole way of measuring progress was totally wrong. I had to toss out the old rulebook and adopt a new one. It's a really simple shift in thinking, but it is incredibly powerful. I call it the 10,000-line rule.
So, forget about that whole 10,000 hours idea, at least for now. For us, the real metric of progress, the only number that really matters, is this one. 10,000 lines of code. Not code you watched someone else write, code that you wrote. It's not about watching, it's about doing. That's where skill is forged.
And this right here, this is where the magic happens. It's not in the perfect, clean, final product. No way. The good stuff is in the garbage. It's in the messy code, the broken code, the code that crashes your computer. Every single error message is a better teacher than any polished tutorial. Those mistakes aren't failures, they're lessons.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's really this simple. You have to write code. All the time. Even when you feel like a total imposter. Actually, especially when you don't know what you're doing.
Okay, so you've broken out of tutorial hell. You're writing code. Awesome. But now you're about to face the next boss battle. And this one is a little sneakier. This one's your own ego.
You know that voice in your head? The one that says, ugh, a to-do list? A calculator? That's so basic. I want to build the next Instagram. That's your ego. And it's trying to convince you to sprint a marathon before you've even learned to crawl. It's a trap, and it will burn you out. The real path to getting good looks a lot more like this. You start with those boring projects. And every single one you finish, you're laying another brick in your foundation. You're strengthening those core concepts. These small wins stack up, they build on each other, and they become the real skills you need to eventually take on those massive, complex systems. All right, now for what is maybe the hardest part of this whole journey. The part where most people just quit. I'm talking about that awful feeling of being completely and totally lost. But I want to help you reframe that feeling, because it's not a sign you're failing. It's actually a sign you're winning. Think about it for a second. What does real, genuine learning actually feel like? We tend to think it feels like a light bulb turning on, a moment of clarity and confidence. But that's usually not it at all.
Real learning, it feels like this. It feels like confusion. It feels like being stuck on the same bug for 2 hours and wanting to throw your laptop out the window. That frustration, that friction, that's not a sign you're dumb. That is a feeling of your brain literally building new connections. It means you're right on the edge of a breakthrough. Embrace it. You need to burn this quote into your brain. This is one of the biggest secrets of being a developer. Nobody expects you to know all the answers. The entire job, from a junior developer all the way up to a senior architect, is about one thing: figuring things out. You are a professional problem solver.
And this is what figuring things out looks like in practice. It's a loop. You build something, it breaks, which it will. So you go search for answers. You try again. You make a tiny bit of progress. And then you repeat that whole cycle forever. This loop isn't something you grow out of. This loop is the career. So, we've talked about the traps, we've talked about the mindset shifts, we've talked about the process, but talking is easy. Now it's time to actually do something. Your real challenge starts right now.
And if this is you, if you're sitting there right now, stuck, with a dozen tutorial tabs open, just waiting for that magical moment when you finally feel ready,
I'm telling you, just stop.
that's right. Close this. Close all those other tabs. You don't need them right now. Open your code editor. Just a blank file. And just build something. Anything. I don't care if it's a program that just prints your name. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be yours. Because that blinking cursor on that empty screen, that's not something to be afraid of. That's where your real journey begins.